The hospital room was a sterile cage, its fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of trapped wasps. Ethan Caldwell stood frozen, staring at the empty bed where his twin brother, Eli, had taken his last breath just hours ago. The air smelled of antiseptic and regret, a bitter mix that clawed at Ethan's throat as he realized he'd never get to say the words he'd rehearsed in his head for years. I'm sorry. San Francisco's skyline glittered beyond the window, indifferent to the void now carved into Ethan's chest. He and Eli had once been inseparable, two halves of a whole identical in face, but never in heart. Growing up in a small Ohio town, they'd shared everything, secrets whispered under blankets, dreams of escaping their suffocating suburb, the sting of their father's belt when they dared to dream too loud. But when Eli came out at 17, proudly declaring who he was, Ethan had turned his back, spitting venomous words that still echoed in his nightmares. You're a disgrace, he'd said, walking away from the only person who'd ever truly known him. Now, at 32, Ethan was a stranger to his own reflection. He'd built a life of sharp suits and corporate handshakes, a tech executive in a city that worshipped ambition. Eli, though, had chosen a different path, one of color, courage, and love. He'd found a home in the Castro, a husband named Marcus, and a daughter, Lila, whose laughter Ethan had only heard in the videos Eli posted online. Videos Ethan watched in secret, his heart aching with every frame. The door creaked open, and Marcus stepped in, his eyes red-rimmed but steady. He was tall, with a quiet strength that made Ethan feel small. In his arms, 5-year-old Lila clung to a stuffed octopus, her dark curls framing a face that mirrored Eli's soft, open, fearless. She's been asking for him, Marcus said, his voice low, cracked. She doesn't understand he's gone. Ethan's throat tightened. I didn't know it was this bad. He didn't tell me about the cancer until last month. The words felt like a confession, weak and overdue. Eli's diagnosis had come too late, the leukemia too aggressive. Ethan had flown in from New York, promising himself he'd fix things. But time had slipped through his fingers like sand. Marcus's gaze hardened. He didn't tell you because you made it clear you didn't want to know him. Not after what you said. Ethan flinched, the memory of that fight in their old apartment burning fresh. You're choosing this over family, he'd shouted, as if Eli's love for Marcus was a betrayal. He'd walked out, leaving Eli to build a life without him. Now, that life was over, and all Ethan had left were regrets and a niece who didn't know his name. I want to help, Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. With Lila. With anything. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't get to waltz in now and play hero. Eli was her world. You were just the guy who called him a mistake. The words landed like a fist, but Ethan didn't look away. He couldn't. Lila's small hand reached out, tugging at Marcus's sleeve. Daddy, where's Papa? She asked, her voice trembling. Marcus knelt, whispering something Ethan couldn't hear, and the tenderness in his movements made Ethan's chest ache. He'd spent years convincing himself Eli's life was wrong. But standing here, watching Marcus and Lila, he saw only love, raw, unbreakable, and real. I know I screwed up, Ethan said, stepping closer. But I'm here now. I want to be better for her. For him. Marcus stood, his eyes searching Ethan's face for something sincerity. Maybe. Or proof that this wasn't just guilt talking. We'll see, he said finally. Lila's all I have left of him. I won't let anyone hurt her. Not even you. As Marcus took Lila's hand and walked out, Ethan sank into a chair, the weight of his choices pressing down. He'd mocked his brother, walked away, and built a life on the ashes of their bond. But now, with Eli gone, there was little piece of him left behind, a chance to make things right. Ethan didn't know if he could, but he knew he had to try. The next morning, Ethan stood outside Marcus's apartment in the Castro, a colorful building with rainbow flags fluttering above the door. He'd spent the night replaying every moment he'd failed Eli, every word he wished he could take back. His phone buzzed with work and mails demands from a world that suddenly felt meaningless, but he ignored them. Today wasn't about his corner office or his carefully curated life. It was about a little girl and the brother he'd lost. He knocked, and Marcus opened the door, looking wary but not hostile. Lila peeked out from behind him, her octopus clutched tight. "Who's that?" she asked, her voice curious but guarded. Ethan crouched to her level, his heart pounding. "I'm Ethan," he said softly. "I'm your papa's brother." Lila tilted her head, studying him. "You look like Papa," she said, and the words hit Ethan like a wave. He did look like Eli, same hazel eyes, same sharp jaw, but he'd spent years trying to be someone else. Someone who didn't carry the weight of their shared past. "Come in," Marcus said, stepping aside. The apartment was warm, filled with photos of Eli and Marcus laughing. Lila's drawings pinned to the fridge. A life Ethan had never been part of. He felt like an intruder. But Lila's small hand brushing his as she showed him her octopus made something in him shift. Maybe, just maybe, he could belong here if he could earn it. Over the next few days, Ethan visited daily, bringing small gifts for Lila, book, a puzzle, anything to make her smile. Marcus watched him like a hawk, but Ethan didn't mind. He deserved the scrutiny. He learned Lila's routines, her favorite songs, the way she lit up when Marcus told stories about Eli. Each moment was a reminder of what he'd missed, but also a spark of hope. He wasn't just Eli's twin anymore. He was someone who could be there for Lila, if Marcus would let him. One evening, as Lila colored at the kitchen table, Marcus pulled Ethan aside. "Eli left something for you," he said, handing over a sealed envelope. Ethan's name was written in Eli's familiar scrawl, and his hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a letter, short but heavy with meaning. "Ethan, I never stopped loving you, even when you walked away. I know you didn't understand me, but I hope you'll understand Lila. She's my heart, and she needs you now. Be the brother I always knew you could be. Eli." Ethan's vision blurred with tears. He'd spent years building walls, but Eli had never given up on him. Now, with Lila's laughter echoing in the background, he knew what he had to do. He had to fight for her, for the family he'd turned his back on. But first, he had to prove to Marcus and himself that he was worthy of that chance. The San Francisco fog curled around Ethan like a living thing, heavy and cold as he stood outside Marcus's apartment the next morning. Eli's letter was tucked into his jacket, its words branded into his mind. He'd read it a dozen times, each pass carving deeper into the guilt he'd carried for years. He knocked, half expecting Marcus to turn him away. But the door opened, and Lila's voice spilled out, bright and unfiltered. "Ethan's here," she called, and the sound of his name in her small, trusting voice made his chest tighten. Marcus stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "She's been talking about you," he said, stepping aside. "Don't make me regret letting you in." Ethan nodded, stepping into the warmth of the apartment. Lila was sprawled on the living room floor, surrounded by crayons and paper, drawing what looked like a rainbow-colored octopus. "Look," she said, holding up her masterpiece. "It's Mr. Squiggles." "That's amazing," Ethan said, kneeling beside her. He traced the wobbly lines with a finger, marveling at how much of Eli he saw in her, his creativity, his joy. "Did your papa teach you to draw like this?" Lila nodded, her smile fading slightly. "Papa said I could be an artist someday, like him." Ethan's throat closed. Eli had been a painter, his canvases bursting with color and life, sold in local galleries around the Castro. Ethan had never seen them in person, only online, each one a reminder of the brother he'd pushed away. He was right, Ethan said softly. "You're going to be incredible." Marcus watched from the kitchen, his arms crossed. Ethan could feel the weight of his gaze. The unspoken question, are you really here for her? Or is this just guilt talking? Ethan didn't have an answer yet, not one that would satisfy Marcus. But he was here, and that had to count for something. Over coffee, Marcus laid out the reality of their situation. Eli's gone. And I'm drowning, he admitted, his voice low so Lila wouldn't hear. Medical bills. Funeral costs. Keeping this placey, it's too much. I'm a teacher, not a millionaire. And Lila, she needs stability. Ethan leaned forward, his corporate instincts kicking in. I can help with the money. Whatever you need, bills. Rent. Anything. Just tell me. Marcus's eyes narrowed. This isn't about your bank account, Ethan. Lila doesn't need a check. She needs someone who's in this for real, not someone who's gonna bail when it gets hard. The word stung, but Ethan didn't argue. He knew Marcus was right. His life in New York was all polished surfaces, boardrooms, penthouses, a fiancée who didn't even know Eli existed. He'd built it to escape the mess of his past. But now that past was staring him in the face, wearing a 5-year-old smile. I'm not going anywhere, Ethan said, meeting Marcus's gaze. I know I messed up with Eli. I can't fix that. But I can be here for Lila. Let me prove it. Marcus didn't respond, just sipped his coffee. But the silence felt like a test. Ethan spent the day with Lila, reading her stories, helping her build a pillow fort. Each laugh, each small moment, felt like a step towards something he couldn't name. But when Lila fell asleep on the couch, clutching Mr. Squiggles, Marcus's expression softened. She likes you, he said. That's a start. The next few weeks were a blur of small victories and quiet tensions. Ethan took time off work, ignoring the increasingly frantic emails from his boss. He showed up every day, learning Lila's world, her love for strawberry ice cream, her fear of thunderstorms, the way she'd hum Eli's favorite songs without realizing it. Marcus remained guarded, but he didn't push Ethan away. They fell into a fragile routine, Marcus handling school drop-offs, Ethan picking Lila up, the three of them sharing awkward dinners where the ghost of Eli sat at the table. One night, after Lila was in bed, Marcus handed Ethan a photo album. You should see this, he said, his voice softer than usual. The album was filled with Eli's life, his wedding to Marcus, Lila's first steps, birthday parties filled with laughter. Ethan's fingers lingered on a photo of Eli and Lila painting together, their hands covered in bright blue paint. He hadn't known his brother could be this happy. I didn't realize, Ethan said, his voice breaking. I thought he was throwing his life away. Marcus sat across from him, his eyes steady. Eli loved you, even after everything. He always hoped you'd come around. That's why he left you that letter. Ethan closed the album, his hands shaking. I don't deserve this chance. But I want it. I want to be part of her life. Marcus leaned back, studying him. Then show me. Not with words. With actions. Lila's not a project you can quit when it gets tough. The challenge hung in the air, and Ethan felt the weight of it. He wasn't just fighting for Lila. He was fighting to become the man Eli had believed he could be. The next day, he took Lila to the park, pushing her on the swings as she giggled, her laughter cutting through the fog. For the first time, Ethan felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. But that night, his phone rang. It was his fiancée, Claire, her voice sharp with frustration. You've been gone for weeks. Ethan, when are you coming back to New York? Your job's on the line, and I'm not waiting forever. Ethan stared at Lila's drawings on the fridge, Eli's letter burning a hole in his pocket. I don't know, he said honestly. I need to figure some things out. Claire's silence was deafening, and when she hung up, Ethan knew he was at a crossroads. His old life safe, predictable, empty was pulling him back. But Lila's small hand in his, Marcus's cautious trust, and Eli's final words were pulling him forward. He couldn't have both. He'd have to choose. The San Francisco rain battered the windows of Marcus's apartment, a steady drumbeat that matched the pounding in Ethan's chest. He'd been up all night, Claire's ultimatum echoing in his head. Come back to New York, or we're done. His life there, his corner office, his engagement, his carefully constructed identity felt like a distant dream, one that didn't fit anymore. Lila's laughter, spilling from the living room as she played with Marcus, was the only thing that felt real. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, staring at Eli's letter. The words "be the brother I always knew you could be" were a lifeline and a challenge. He'd spent years running from who he was, from the twin who'd known him better than anyone. Now, with Eli gone, Ethan was left to face the man he'd become and the man he wanted to be. Marcus walked in, drying his hands on a dish towel. "You look like hell," he said, not unkindly. "Everything okay?" Ethan hesitated, then slid the letter across the table. "Eli thought I could be better than I am. I'm trying to figure out if he was right." Marcus read the letter in silence, his expression softening. Eli always saw the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. He handed it back, his eyes searching Ethan's. "What's stopping you?" "Everything," Ethan admitted. "My job, my life in New York, my fiancé. I built it all to prove I wasn't him." The words felt like a betrayal, even now. "But being here, with Lila, with you, it's like I'm waking up." Marcus nodded, but his face was guarded. "Waking up's not enough. Lila needs someone who's all in. If you're still 1 foot out the door, you're not ready." Ethan wanted to argue, but he knew Marcus was right. He'd been dipping his toes into Lila's world, but he hadn't committed. Not fully. That changed the next day when Lila's school called. She'd had a meltdown, crying for Eli, and Marcus was stuck in a meeting. Ethan didn't hesitate. He drove through the rain, picking her up and holding her as she sobbed, her small body shaking against his. "Papa's not coming back, is he?" she whispered, clutching Mr. Squiggles. Ethan's heart broke. "No, sweetheart," he said, brushing her curls back. "But he's still with you. In here." He touched her chest, then his own, and in me. Lila looked up at him, her eyes searching. "You're staying, right?" The question was a knife, sharp and precise. "I'm staying," Ethan said, the words solidifying something inside him. He drove her home, singing her favorite song to calm her. And when Marcus arrived, he found them curled up on the couch, Lila asleep in Ethan's arms. "You didn't have to do that," Marcus said, but there was gratitude in his voice. "I wanted to," Ethan replied. "She's family." Marcus studied him, then nodded. "Okay, let's talk." That night, over takeout, Marcus laid out the future. "Lila's got a trust fund from Eli's paintings, but it's not enough. I'm thinking of moving somewhere cheaper. Maybe Oakland. I can't keep this place without Eli's income." Ethan's stomach twisted. The idea of Lila leaving the city, leaving the life Eli had built, felt wrong. "What if I moved here?" he said, the words surprising even himself. "I could help. Financially. With Lila. Whatever you need." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You'd give up New York. Your big shot life." Ethan thought of Claire, of the promotion he'd been chasing, of the man he'd been pretending to be. "It's not my life anymore," he said. "This is." Marcus didn't respond, but the air between them shifted, like a door cracking open. Over the next few days, Ethan threw himself into Lila's world. He took her to art classes, helped with homework, learned to braid her hair. Each moment was a small redemption, a way to honor Eli. But Claire's calls kept coming, each one more insistent. Finally, she flew to San Francisco, showing up at Marcus's apartment unannounced. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice clipped as she stood in the doorway, her designer coat out of place among Lila's toys. Ethan stepped outside, the fog wrapping around them. "I'm not going back," he said before she could start. "I belong here. With Lila." Claire's face hardened. "You're throwing away everything we built for a kid you barely know. For your brother's life." "It's not his life," Ethan said, his voice steady. "It's mine now." She left without another word, and Ethan felt a weight lift. He'd chosen Lila, chosen Eli's memory, chosen himself. But when he went back inside, Marcus was waiting, his expression unreadable. "You're serious about this," he said. "But it's not just about you. Lila's my daughter. If you're in for good." Ethan nodded, his resolve hardening. I'm in. The next day, Ethan started looking for apartments in the city. He called his boss, resigning without hesitation. The corporate world could keep its glass towers. He'd found something real. But as he settled into this new life, a letter arrived from Eli's lawyer. It was about Lila's custodial legal document that changed everything. The letter from Eli's lawyer was a single page, but it hit Ethan like a tidal wave. Eli had named him as Lila's co-guardian, alongside Marcus. In his will, the words were clear, deliberate. Ethan Caldwell, my brother, to share responsibility for my daughter, Lila, should anything happen to me. Ethan sat at Marcus's kitchen table, the paper trembling in his hands, as the weight of Eli's trust settled over him. His brother, the man he'd mocked and abandoned, had believed in him enough to give him this. Marcus read the letter in silence, his face a mask. He never told me, he said finally, his voice tight. He knew you weren't ready, but he still chose you. Ethan's eyes burned. I wasn't, but I am now. Marcus leaned back, his fingers drumming on the table. This doesn't change anything. I'm her dad. I've been there every day, diapers, tantrums, all of it. You don't get to just step in because Eli had hope. I'm not trying to replace you, Ethan said, his voice raw. I just want to be part of her life, like he wanted. The tension between them crackled, but Lila's voice broke through, calling from her room. Daddy. Ethan. Mister. Squiggles needs a bandage. Marcus sighed, and they both went to her. The argument paused, but not forgotten. Lila was wrapping her stuffed octopus in a paper towel, her face serious. He got hurt, she said. You fix him. Okay. Ethan knelt beside her, taping the bandage with exaggerated care. All better, he said, and her giggle was a balm to the ache in his chest. Marcus watched, his expression softening, and for a moment, they were a team. But the letter lingered, a silent wedge. Over the next week, Ethan threw himself into proving his commitment. He enrolled in parenting classes, research schools, even started painting with Lila, channeling Eli's spirit. Marcus noticed, but he kept his distance, his trust hard-won. Ethan didn't push. He knew he had to earn it. One afternoon, at a pride event in the Castro, Ethan saw the community Eli had loved. Rainbow flags waved, music pulsed, and Lila danced with a group of kids, her face painted with glitter. Marcus stood beside Ethan, their shoulders brushing. Eli lived for this, Marcus said, his voice thick. He'd be here, dancing like an idiot, making everyone laugh. Ethan smiled, picturing it. I wish I'd seen it. Marcus turned to him, his eyes searching. Why didn't you? You were his twin. He needed you. The question cut deep, and Ethan didn't look away. I was scared, he admitted, of what it meant for me, for us. I thought if I pushed him away, I could keep things simple. But I was wrong. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. You hurt him, but he never stopped hoping you'd come back. The words were a gift and a wound. Ethan watched Lila twirl, her laughter rising above the crowd, and made a silent vow to be the man Eli had seen in him. That night, he and Marcus talked until dawn, not just about Lila, but about Eli's quirks, his dreams, the life he'd built. For the first time, Ethan felt like he was part of it. But the peace was short-lived. A social worker contacted Marcus, questioning the custody arrangement. Eli's will was clear, but Marcus's financial struggles raised red flags. They're worried I can't provide for her, Marcus confessed, his voice shaking. They're talking about reviewing guardianship. Ethan's blood ran cold. They can't take her away. They might, Marcus said, his eyes haunted. If they think she's better off somewhere else. Ethan's mind raced. He had the money, the stability, the life that looked good on paper. But Marcus was Lila's rock, her home. The thought of her being taken from him was unthinkable. We'll fight this, Ethan said, his voice firm. Together. Marcus looked at him, surprised. then nodded. Together, they hired a lawyer, pooling Ethan's savings with the last of Eli's trust fund. The process was grueling: interviews, home visits, endless paperwork. Ethan moved to San Francisco permanently, renting a small apartment nearby. He was there every day, helping with Lila, proving to the courts and to Marcus that he was all in. One night, as they prepared for a custody hearing, Marcus handed Ethan a small painting. It was one of Eli's, a vibrant abstract of two figures, mirrored but distinct, standing under a rainbow. "He painted this for you," Marcus said. "He said it was you and him." Ethan's fingers traced the canvas, tears falling. "I don't deserve this." "Maybe not," Marcus said, "but it's yours anyway." The hearing loomed, and Ethan knew it would test everything: his commitment, his bond with Marcus, his promise to Eli. Lila was worth it. She was everything. The courtroom was a sterile battlefield, its wooden benches and flickering fluorescent lights a stark contrast to the colorful chaos of Lila's world. Ethan sat beside Marcus, his suit feeling like armor, too tight and too heavy. Lila was at a friend's house, oblivious to the fight for her future, but her absence weighed on Ethan like a physical thing. The social worker's report lay on the judge's desk, a dry summary of Marcus's financial struggles and Ethan's late arrival into Lila's life. The question wasn't whether they loved her, it was whether they could keep her. The lawyer they'd hired, a sharp woman named Rachel, had prepped them for weeks. "Be honest," she'd said. "Show them you're a family." But as the hearing began, Ethan felt the fragility of that word. Family. He'd thrown it away once, with Eli. Now, he was fighting to hold on to it. The social worker spoke first, her voice clinical. "Mr. Thompson's financial situation is precarious. Without Mr. Caldwell's support, he may not be able to provide a stable home. And Mr. Caldwell's recent involvement raises concerns about his long-term commitment." Ethan's jaw clenched, but Rachel squeezed his arm, a silent reminder to stay calm. Marcus testified next, his voice steady but raw. "Lila's my daughter," he said. "I've been there every day since she was born. Eli trusted Ethan, and I'm starting to, but I'm her dad. That doesn't change." When it was Ethan's turn, he stood, his heart pounding. "I wasn't there for my brother," he said, his voice low but clear. "I made mistakes, big ones. But Lila's my family, and I'm not walking away again. I've moved here, left my job, my old life. I'm here for her, and for Marcus, for as long as they need me." The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, listened intently. She asked about their plans, their finances, their bond with Lila. Ethan and Marcus answered together, their voices weaving a picture of a life built around a little girl who loved octopuses and rainbows. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The hearing ended with no decision, just a promise to review. Ethan and Marcus left the courtroom in silence, the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Outside, the San Francisco sun broke through the fog, and Ethan took a deep breath. "We did our best," he said. Marcus nodded, but his eyes were distant. "If they take her, I don't know what I'll do." "They won't," Ethan said, his voice fierce. "We won't let them." That night, they took Lila to Eli's favorite diner, a retro spot with neon signs and milkshakes Lila adored. She slurped her strawberry shake, giggling as Marcus made faces, and Ethan felt a flicker of hope. They were a team, even if the world didn't see it yet. But the next morning, Rachel called with bad news. A distant relative of Eli's, an aunt from Ohio, had filed for custody, claiming Marcus and Ethan were unfit. She had money, a big house, a traditional family. The news hit Marcus like a punch, and Ethan saw the fear in his eyes, fear of losing Lila, of losing Eli all over again. "We can't let her win," Ethan said, his voice shaking with anger. "Lila belongs with us." Marcus looked at him, his expression raw. "Why are you fighting so hard? You could walk away, go back to your life. Why stay?" Ethan thought of Eli's letter, of Lila's laughter, of the man he was becoming. Because I love her, he said simply. And because Eli believed in me, I won't let him down again. Marcus's eyes softened, and for the first time, Ethan saw trust there. They spent the next week preparing for the new hearing, gathering letters from Lila's teachers, friends, and neighbors, all testifying to the love in her home. Ethan sold his New York apartment, funneling the money into a fund for Lila's future. He was all in. No turning back. The night before the hearing, Lila had a nightmare, crying for Eli. Ethan and Marcus took turns holding her, singing softly until she fell back asleep. As they sat in the dark, Marcus spoke. If we lose her, I need you to promise you'll keep fighting. Ethan met his gaze. I promise. For her. For you. Marcus nodded. And in that moment, Ethan felt something shift, a bond forged not just by Lila, but by shared grief and hope. The fight wasn't over, but they were in it together. And that was enough for now. The second custody hearing was a storm waiting to break. Ethan and Marcus sat shoulder to shoulder in the courtroom, their lawyer Rachel at their side, as Eli's aunt, Margaret, took the stand. She was a stern woman in her 60s, her voice dripping with righteousness as she spoke of traditional values and her stable home in Ohio. Lila needs a proper family, she said, her eyes flicking toward Marcus with thinly veiled disdain. Not this. Ethan's fists clenched, but Marcus's hand on his arm kept him grounded. Lila was with a sitter, her absence a constant ache, but Ethan could picture her clutching Mr. Squiggles, asking for her papa. He wouldn't let this woman take her away. Rachel called witnesses, Lila's teacher, who praised Marcus's devotion, a neighbor, who described Ethan's daily presence, a friend from the Castro, who spoke of Eli's love for his daughter. Each word built a case, not just for custody, but for the life they were creating. When Marcus testified, his voice broke as he described Eli's final days, how he'd whispered Lila's name, how he'd trusted Ethan to step up. Ethan felt tears prick his eyes, but he held them back. This was for Lila. When Ethan took the stand, he didn't look at Margaret. He looked at the judge. I spent years running from my brother, he said. I was wrong about him, about love, about what family means. Lila's taught me that. She's my niece, but she's also my chance to make things right. I'm not perfect, but I'm here, and I'll never walk away again. The judge listened, her face unreadable. Margaret's lawyer argued that Ethan's past and Marcus's finances made them unfit, but Rachel countered with evidence of their stability, Ethan's savings, Marcus's job, their community. The hearing stretched on, exhausting and relentless. But when it ended, the judge promised a decision within days. Those days were torture. Ethan and Marcus took Lila to the zoo, the park, anywhere to keep her smiling. But the fear of losing her hung over them. One night, as Lila slept, Marcus opened a bottle of wine and poured 2 glasses. Eli would have loved this, he said, a sad smile on his face. Us, trying to be a family. We are a family, Ethan said, and he meant it. The word felt right now, not fragile but strong. Marcus looked at him, his eyes searching. You've changed. I didn't think you could, but you have. Ethan's throat tightened. I had to. For her. For him. The next morning, Rachel called. The judge had ruled in their favor. Lila would stay with Marcus, with Ethan as co-guardian, just as Eli had wanted. Margaret's claim was denied. Ethan and Marcus hugged, tears streaming. And when they picked Lila up from school, they both held her tight, a family unbroken. But the victory wasn't the end. Ethan knew he had to keep proving himself, not just to Marcus, but to Lila. He moved into a bigger apartment, one with a room for Lila when she stayed over. He and Marcus worked out a rhythm, shared dinners, school runs, bedtime stories. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. One afternoon, as they painted with Lila, Marcus handed Ethan a small box. Inside was a key, painted with a tiny rainbow. It's to our place, Marcus said. Eli would want you to have it. Ethan's eyes burned. Thank you, he said, his voice thick. For trusting me. Marcus smiled. A real one this time. You earned it. As Lila laughed, splashing paint on Ethan's shirt, he felt Eli's presence. Not as a ghost, but as a warmth. A blessing. He'd mocked his brother. Walked away. But now he was here. Raising Lila. Building a family. It was more than he deserved. But it was everything he wanted. The San Francisco sun was high, painting the Castro in shades of gold as Ethan pushed Lila on a swing at the park. Her laughter rang out, bright and free, and Ethan felt a peace he hadn't known was possible. A year had passed since the custody battle, and their life had settled into something steady, something real. Marcus stood nearby, snapping photos, his smile as warm as the day they'd won. Ethan had changed in ways he couldn't have imagined. His New York life was a memory, replaced by school pickups, art classes, and late-night talks with Marcus over coffee. He'd started a small tech consulting business, working from home to be there for Lila. His old ambition had faded, replaced by a quieter "Dravetto be present." To be enough. Lila hopped off the swing, tugging Ethan's hand. Come see my picture, she said, leading him to a bench where her sketchbook lay open. It was a drawing of 3 figures, her, Marcus, and Ethan under a rainbow, with Eli's face in the clouds. That's Papa, she said, pointing. He's watching us. Ethan's chest ached, but he smiled. He's proud of you, kiddo. And us. Marcus joined them, his hand brushing Ethan's shoulder. She's right, he said. Eli's here. In her. In you. The words were a gift. One Ethan carried as they walked home, Lila skipping between them. The apartment was filled with Eli's paintings, Lila's toys, and the life they'd built together. Ethan had a place here now, not just as Lila's uncle, but as part of a family. He and Marcus weren't just co-parents. They were friends. Maybe something more, though neither had named it yet. That night, after Lila was asleep, Ethan and Marcus sat on the balcony, the city sparkling below. I was wrong about you, Marcus said, his voice soft. I thought you'd run when it got hard. But you stayed. Ethan looked at him, the man who'd loved his brother, who'd given him a second chance. I stayed because of you, he said. And her. And him. Marcus reached for his hand, their fingers lacing together. It wasn't a promise. Not yet. But it was a start. Ethan thought of Eli's letter, of the brother who'd never given up on him. He'd mocked Eli, walked away, but now he was here, raising his child, living his truth. It wasn't redemption, not fully, but it was love. And that was enough. As the city hummed below, Ethan made a silent vow to keep going, to keep loving, to be the man Eli had always known he could be. For Lila. For Marcus. For himself.